And I'm going to talk about some of the things we experience in Aalborg. It's going to be an overall approach, but please think project. Put your project hat on, whatever I talk about here. Something caught me during some of the sessions I heard here. Is it possible to create the teachers or students for the future? No, we don't know about that. But however, we can set up an educational model which allows the space for the professors and the students to develop into whatever direction we are focusing into. And that is exactly what the project work is able to do, to create this room for each person to develop and adapt to the situation. Right, that was... It doesn't work?
It doesn't work.
Oh.
No, funciona o no. Entonces, pero no le escuchan. So you have to yeah, it works, but you have to speak louder.
I speak louder, even though. Okay, forgive me.
La idea es, el PBL no va para el futuro, no forma para el futuro según él, sino para formar a las personas para que luego vean en qué dirección van a orientarse en el futuro.
Oops, there it is. No, here it is. How does it work? Here it is. We're having 3 campuses in Denmark. We have one in Aalborg, that was the first one, established in 1974. We had one in Esbjerg in 95, mainly concentrated on the oil exploration in the North Sea and so on. And in 2005, we opened a campus in Copenhagen. So we have these 3 campuses in Denmark. And as you see it, you can't see it here, but this is actually the very northern tip of continental Europe. So we are at Thule, isn't that what it said? We are having 16,000 students from the preparatory to the master's level, and on top of that, PhDs as well. 10% are international students, and we have 1,500 faculties and 700 administrative level. Remember we talked about this a couple of days ago? Yeah, and the educational program is organized into the 4 faculties at the universities, and we have out of our total program, 70 of those taught directly and 100% in English. So this is the sort of setting. Sometimes we have a feeling that PBL is something new, and allow me to take a detour, a historical detour, to set the scene. It originates basically up through the 60s. You saw a revolt, a revolution against what was then called the rule of the professors, and the young people didn't have any influence on anything here. So in the United States, there were some sit-in, it was called. This was in Berkeley. And you begin to see the first demonstration against the Vietnam War, the Americans' war in Vietnam. In Berlin, you had some riots from the students. And on the Eastern Europe, you had Dubček coming there. Also there was a strong need for democracy and openness. So it happens here. Then it takes a turn to the worse, because in some of the, not revolutions, but riots, in Berlin, a student was killed, shot down here. And then it really developed. Now it's enough. And in Paris, it's a student revolution we're talking about here. Really took place. The Sorbonne is closed and everything is rioted. Universities are demolished and so on. And 10 days later, I think, you have the general strike in France. And from there on, many, many things changed in Europe. And also the educational system. In Denmark, based on what we had here, we also had a spillover from this revolution. However, it was called the polite revolution in Denmark. It happens in 67, one of the students. This is a revolutionary one in Denmark with ties and everything. But I think actually he's dressed like that way to sneak in, because he was putting the rector aside and took the stand in for the rector. The rector was called the Red Rector. He has been part of the resistance against the German. He was part of the culvert government in Denmark. He was taken by Gestapo, so he was a very experienced person, and later on he also was part of the first government after the war. And he saw this situation. He saw also his history from Europe and said, this can go terribly wrong. So he speaks with the students and said, okay, I agree with you. The red one, he's a communist, Stalinist, I think even. And he said, I understand you. You need to have influence. So it was a quiet revolution, but it ended then with a new law in 70, how to govern the university, and more or less you had 50% influence from the students and the academia. So the professor rule was over by 1970. And it was the students who did this.
¿Seguido esta sección?
Do you need? And I also wonder, maybe this was what it needed to make a change at that point. Where are we now? Who's making the rules now? In Denmark, I see actually the ball is rolling down into the old positions. We as planners at the university and so on is setting more and more of the scene. So maybe it's time to have a new revolution, to have the students working again. Okay, so the other one was in 70, we got new rules for the university. In 72, we had the possibility to create 2 new universities based on a unique situation between the organization, the industry, the unions, and the politicians. They said, in this situation, we need to have more educated people in order to have our society running. So they decided that we should start 2 new universities, but it was focused on working class children. Otherwise, it has been academia who had the education, so it should be established such a way that the working class people could have it, and it should be based on real problems. Now you can see we are entering into something that we know. To distinguish these universities from the traditional one, they became university centers. They were not posh enough to be called universities. So, in 74, the Aalborg was established, and the city was very proud of having the new professors coming in with tires and goats and pipes and things like that. It didn't turn out that way. We got hippies. Long hair, sweaters, jeans, whatever. And the city said, we were proud to have it here, and we have reserved a place in the middle of the city for this prestigious university. But then came the young ones, and among them, absolutely, our now rector. He was no better then. And said, no, I think we'll find a place for them outside the city. It's more safe. So that is the reason why we are located outside the city today. And also there was a great resistance in those days. We were considered as a communist conspiracy. At that time it might have been the case, because look at the sign here. There's no less than 3 of these signs. One is underground. So never mind, that was the architect's idea. So we started here. It was all the institution in the Aalborg area, which formed the new university center in Aalborg. That was a process in itself to have all these people working together, because they came all with traditional backgrounds. And during the first 5-year period, all these communists, they couldn't do anything. They even took 50% of the time for study off to make a project where they went out and talked with people. No, that wouldn't work. So they had 5-year free run from the press and everywhere to say, no, this is not going to work. This is bad. The situation turned, however, after 5 years, when the first master's students came out, and then from then on the situation changed, because these guys could really go forward, because they have learned something that they haven't seen before, and that is exactly what the project did. It made them more explorative. It makes them better to serve the society. So the last one in this section then is, it was meant for the workers' children to get educated. However, it didn't work because they didn't have the capacity to handle the freedom that they had in such system. But it became a wonderful tool for the upper class again. And if we measure today, did it have any effect? No, not so ever. It's still that situation. We have more students coming, but it's not because the working class children have entered the university. It's because the working class has moved up to the middle class, and then they come in there. Something for thought. Is that something you want to catch up?
Hace falta aclarar un poco eso.
Or is it...
Es una mirada histórica, como hemos visto.
Okay. So that's the historical background for where we are at the moment. So where are we then? Here. We do something of love, which we could call outreach. We are reaching out to our environmental. We are not sitting within the walls of the university anymore. We are doing research, and hopefully this outreach and the research can turn into an outcome. So we are moving from, we are still having for love, but we also would like to earn money. Not only the university, but municipality, region, and so on. A couple of days ago, I need to say, I don't know why the euro isn't there. But it's not. So, and here we might have some assistance. This is very much at one time here. But you can see we have the outreach, what we do for love, and we have here what we do for money. I have here the users. We could have non-innovative small and medium-sized enterprises. We have the voters and politicians. They are put here as weak users because we can make popular articles and we can make publications and research database and so on, but it's not really come to good use. I wouldn't say wasted, sorry, but anyway. We can participate in a debate, make some exploratory for the young students and go to high school and talk with our students. But it's the weak side. What we really like is to come out here and to have a setup with the project so we can earn money. And to go there, you can see we can move up through innovative small and medium-sized enterprises, public institutions, companies with research and development, and the big multinational companies. And these are the strong users of what we can offer from the university. Here, we can move into regional cooperation with our students and the university in total. We can make network activities, knowledge-intensive entrepreneurships, students' project in cooperation with the companies. Long life learning and continuing education could also be part of this. Collaborational projects, patents, knowledge exchange, and spin-outs. You see there's, as you go along here, you see that more and more complex it becomes. We are not just in the discipline itself here. We are taking more and more parameters in and it becomes complex. And as such, we also have the possibility to create a very knowledge-heavy situation out of what we are doing. What can we do to support it? We can make matchmaking, international cooperation, advisory bodies, career center, knowledge exchange, commercialization, consulting services, and incubators. I haven't heard much about this in the presentation so far. I maybe have misinterpreted. But I don't think this has been in focus really in what we have been discussing during these 2 days, has it? It's more sort of looking into here. I'm not making any judgment to that. But maybe this model that we are working on could be extended to be more, not only for us, but also for the students, more challenging for the students. For instance, how do we get the projects coming into the university for the students to work with? It would be nice if I knew someone who knew someone, and through that they could contact me. So we established what is called a matchmaking office. Let's see if I can go backwards. No. Here. But
Can you go back, please? quiero preguntarle si estos elementos, estos usuarios son, digamos, definidos teóricamente o son algunos cuerpos, organismos de la propia universidad. ¿Os parece?
These titles are bodies of the university, or maybe, for instance, matchmaking is a body, is an office, or just a theoretical?
No, it's in.
Okay. So
It's established by us.
okay. So can you point which are offices and university services?
This one is not. Exploratorium, yes. We invite young high school students to come in and visit our laboratories. We go to the primary school and high schools and offer what is called bridge making. So we can take in, for instance, high school students to the university, work with the model for, let's say, 3 days, going through the project, working with real projects. They have professors assisting them, but also tutors like common students. Matchmaking is something we set up, come back to it. International cooperation, that is mainly in this phase, based on what I know internationally, and then I try to establish cooperation there. But we need also to have somebody behind there to make sure the contracts are done properly and so on and so forth. Advisory boards, that is where we have people from the companies, the society and so on, sitting together with us so we can get advice from the outside to what the university should do. Career center is where the students can go and say, okay, I'm studying this and this career. What is my possibilities when I finish here? So you can go there and get good advice, maybe to say, if you want that, maybe you should go in that direction in your studies. So there's also a career counseling really in it. Incubators, you know that of course, but in Aalborg University we said, okay, we have promising students there and we would like to help them. So we offer them an office and also assistance from our researchers in order to get them going. And then we need to come in here for the patents because they work with this wonderful idea they have and we support them. We can also support them with economical funding. But we would like to have something back. That means that when the company is running, giving a surplus, for the next 5 years we would have 25% of the money back. After that they're running free. And we can also help them with making the contracts so they are not caught up in some kind of dispute about intellectual property rights. And of course, if it's a success, we can have money out of that also.
Okay. Me ha parecido interesante preguntárselo porque esto sitúa al PBL no solo como una estrategia metodológica o curricular, sino que lo pone dentro de un mapa de acción general de toda la universidad, lo cual pienso que era interesante.
Okay. For our students, we make this long life learning activities once every year, and continuing education. In a comparison with Danish universities, we excelled at the Aalborg University in most of the places except one. And the one we were absolute zero on was how many years do you need before going back to have any new knowledge, brush up on your knowledge. And they didn't. Again, because what they have been exposed for is that they are in this project setting. They can go out and they are trained for go out and dig their own new knowledge. So they don't need to come back to the university to have a brush up in new things. Right. Any questions for this? It's a very complex situation in 5-10 minutes, but nevertheless, this is a picture we are part of. And if we would like to have our students more and more involved in what they're doing in the project, what we're doing in the region, in the world, we as a university and students and teachers need to move in this direction. Otherwise, they are sort of going against the wall because we're not supporting that from the university side. Okay, So we can see here we are not technological transfer. No, it's out. Knowledge transfer. No, that's out. Knowledge exchange. Yes, it is. It's exchange because we have some knowledge. We give to you, industry, and you give back to me. So it's a 1-1. It's a win-win situation where this is just passive, handing over something. Increased interaction with the industry, so on. Strategic partnerships, local, regional, national, international. Innovation policy, intellectual property rights. You know what that is? If I might make an invention, who's the owner? If you're working with a company, who's the owner? We need to know. Well, you can read that afterwards. The matchmaking you saw up there, established to make it easy for companies and so on to get access to our researchers. And we have internal matchmakers at the university, each department at least one. We have external matchmakers in companies around the nation, and we also have match points out in the municipalities. At the moment we have 10 match contact persons in all of the municipalities. Okay. Maybe you know this one. This is known as a triple helix model, the government business university. You are familiar with that? Yes, okay. This model actually was made in the 70s on the back of a napkin in Copenhagen airport, but nevertheless it holds. It gives you a situation where you have the education, we have discipline-oriented the courses, and we have the problem orientation. That's where we have the projects. The research, you have pure science, not poor science. Sorry. Sometimes, yeah. Applied science, and we have the practice with the main fields and the new fields. This axis here is known because this has been running for universities for years. They may, in practice, have practical problems. With the research, they can get theoretical answers back. The education and research, that is also something that we do. Theoretical problems, theoretical answers. But this one, it's not so normal in the university. This one is more comfortable for us to be in. But practice can come with practical problems, and during the project work here, they can get practical answers. And if we take in the research, practical, here, come back with theoretical answers. So that is the helix that we are sort of trying to use in here. But where's the project? It's not there. But it's here, and now it begins to narrow into something that really influence our daily day. The practice for us gets us the problem. We're in contact with the companies, they have a problem, we would like to solve it. We can take the research result into trying to solve it, and we have the university's support, in this case, courses and subjects to solve it. So the project is the learning media. And that is where they are taking in the problem, try to mix it all together, come up with some hopefully useful, not only a solution, but hopefully many solutions here. There's a danger, because if sometime we are tempted to say, okay, we can do this, it costs you so and so much, then we're selling our soul to the devil. Because our product is not to be a commercial or production facility. Our product is to educate students to be good learners by themselves. And maybe we cannot solve the problem which we tried to, which we thought we could do. It doesn't matter, it's the process to go in there. And instead of having just one suggestion for the company, they might have 5 from us. We have just chosen to work with that one. But it's like in research, it could also be that it's not worth anything. Okay, that's fine for the university, because it's a process. And if we look to research, sometimes we end in a cul-de-sac. There's no way. Okay, then we will find another way. But the learning process is there as we go along. So, again, the project, taking it to the other side, so to speak. The results, where can it be? It can be within the university, like historically some of us have done, but it can also be made to influence the local environment, regional, national, and international environments. And that makes it really interesting, because when working with the project, we can actually see, go out and see there's an impact of what we are going to do with our project results. Here's an example of how it can be arranged. You see the term industry I use here covers industry, civic, governments, NGO, and it's a wide term. The project can be done within the university, or maybe with a very small relation to the industry. But it could also be more intensive in the industry, even more, and at the fullest, the students can sit out in the industry and do work there. Please note, the product is owned by the company, but the learning outcome and responsibility is still the universities. We are not selling out of what we know here. I'm running fast. Is that okay?
Vamos bien?
Okay. Not talking too fast? Okay. So, this model can be followed through the semesters. This is what we would like to do the first year, the second year, third year, or so on. But it doesn't need to. It could also be depending on the semesters or depending on the nature of the project. So this could not likely be a first year project, but it doesn't need to be following a specific path. And the red one here is red because there are formalities that we should be aware of here. First of all, the block I had here, there was support for students and professors. If they go out in a company and they said, please sign here, you are getting information from us, you're not allowed to use, so please sign it. Oh, of course, that's fair. Well, I just ended my career by that signature, because it said, no matter what you do and where you are never allowed to come anywhere near what you have been here. So by signing, I simply take away my living in the future. So we go back to the university, is this fair or not? With some changes, it's fair that we are not taking out and make public our findings for a company. So we sign a declaration of confidentiality, but that's all. And we make the presentation for the company, but we are not making it public as such. That's fair. We cannot be put to liability of what we cause and so on. So there's a lot of formalities that we need to be at least aware of before entering into this minefield, because it can be, well, absolutely.
For one average student, how long it takes?
For?
Let's say one average student. For Vídeo, one kind of student. The average student.
For the study? Sorry,
yeah, from starting until to getting the degree.
In the Bologna Declaration, it's set, a master is set for 5 years, and about 50%, I think it was, finish in our system within the nominated time.
50% in 5 years.
Yes, and then I think it's just below 70% in normal time plus 1 year. So that's pretty good. But it's also because engineering is maybe better than some other places to study, because it's more regulated. We start 8 o'clock in the morning, we leave the university, this and there. We are not so...
Then move to according the other schedules.
No, you see that by social science and humanities. They are all over. But we're not in engineering. You can see that actually in the time there. Luckily, though, we have had, tightened the rules. So we are only allowed now to have 6 years to finish a master. And that, it begins to cost you money. But before that, at the Copenhagen University, it was not unusual to have 25 years anniversary among students. Because why should they leave? They had a comfortable life in there. And Now to the model. This is what needs to be said. It is from passive to active learning. Confucius, that one, and then the ish, Confucius, because we put that one on here. Tell me and I'll forget. Do we have such situations at the universities? Where? Yes. Bless you. Show me and I'll remember. Involve me and I'll understand. Step back and I'll act. This is what we like to do in our project works. Here I'm standing up at the worst position I can be in, is talking to you, and you are after 5 minutes, oh, bored, and so on. But nevertheless, I can also show you something. Remember the physics hours in our school days? Professor stood there and poof, he said, "Ah, that's smart." And afterwards, what we learn of that? It was a fat show, but nothing else. But if we should do it, that would be different. We could even use it outside the universities sometimes. But please note this one. This is John Dewey, 1938. There is an intimate and necessary relation between the processes of actual experience and education. And I bet some of you also are familiar with the Kolb learning cycle. Is that right? Problem, analysis, solution. And then when we have that, we tend to go back to finding a new problem. But Kolb has said, no. It is an amputated learning unless we do the active experiment. Is our solution actually valid? Can we test it? And that's what it says here. It doesn't need to have any good.
Para los que no conozcáis, buscad en Google Kolb, K-O-L-B, y es el modelo de aprendizaje adulto.
You're not? Do we know it? Oh, no.
Some.
Well.
But Mr. Google can display the model.
Okay, but in short, you start with the problem, then you go and make some analysis, and you find a solution to it. Then Kolb said, but this solution, we have to test it to see if the solution is good. And then we can go back to see if we need a new problem or we have to go through this problem again to get a new one. So if we only have solution, analysis, and the solution, and go back here, we haven't got the test facilities. And that is actually also what the project is compared to this. We give them the teaching, feed them, and so on, and then they go out and make the active experiments, they make the active project, they make the project work. And that is where the test is for them. That is actually also where the test is for the educational system as such. But already in 1938, this was written about by John Dewey. Right.
El libro de Dewey es Experiencia y Educación. Está editado en español.
He made an interesting coupling also between education and democracy. And we saw that in the 60s, and which also generated then what we are standing in here. There's coming new things in here. Sustainability, globalization, green technology, global warming. I saw it was one of the last presenters. Who was that? Yeah, you had exactly that aspect taken into consideration as well. So it's nice to see how it enters into this awareness. And hopefully this is what we'll see the young people also grab the idea and say, is this possible? I don't know. Try it. You have the project for it. Can you find friends and work with it? Go ahead. Yes. I give you an example. I could have brought many, but this is out of space. It's out of my mind, and it's not my field. This is a student project together with a company. They wanted to do some measurements of the magnetic field around the Earth. So they need to put some probe up there to test it. Then they had many problems. How to send it up? How would we power supply it? How should it work? There's a lot of electronic in it. What about this big mast? It's not easy to have that in the rocket. Then you have to buy the rocket entirely. So there's many disciplines. No, it needs to be here not more than this. And when you come up there, you have to find a mechanism so you can expand this one, because here you have the one measuring the magnetic field. And it's not very good to have that near circuits and so on where you have it. The next point then was how to steer and control it. Should you have burners up here and so on? No. They found out, okay, they're measuring a magnetic field, why not use the magnetic field to control it? So by putting small currents into that, they could actually maneuver it. So that's an example of a project that university more seriously went into professionally. But we took that further and made what is called the CubeSats. Going into space, I mean not going into space, but entering space with some of these are very expensive. You need a rocket, need a lot of money to send it. However, when the Russians in this case fill up the rocket with commercial goods, there's always rooms that is not used, and they have some cubes 1 by 1, 10 by 10 by 10 centimeters, and there's a weight limitation for it too. And they use that as a sort of balance, maybe to make the even weight distribution, and you can get that for free. So you have free ride in space. And that means that as long as you are in the limits of this 10 by 10 by 10 centimeters, or multiply of that, you have a chance to go in space. And here are some of the things they have been working with. They started in 2001 with CubeSat, what we saw here, so on, 25, 9. They're working up to 20 with something here, and so on. That's just a list. You can study that later on. More about the things, the cube there. And after 2, 3, 5 years, we launched it. No, yes, we'll do that later. We started in this one, Eurosat 2 in 2003. It was launched in 2008, 5 years went on. You see the students here? They are dressed so they are not making any dust and so, and they put it very neat in these boxes. And then the big day comes. I hope it comes now. No, it didn't. Sorry. We need more details about it. You see here, within the 10 by 10 centimeters, we can put in layers of softwares, put it in there, protected, of course. We can work under microscopes and, of course, very clean environment to do this. One of the things also that turned up here, how to document such a process where you have maybe 6, 7, or 50 persons working on the same project. It's not possible. Where did it go wrong? So they also had to develop an what is that called? Overlooking video cameras taking pictures so they could see, oh, this is in the process where it went wrong, and then go on. Quite a lot of things going on there. So let's see if it succeeds to get it into space. Not quite. Russian rocket fails and 18 satellites destroyed. Back to the laboratory. Well, anyway, it does have a point. It has a perspective. It's not just fun. Of course, it's good for them to work with, and it also gives them a possibility to get a master in this one. But the Navy had a problem about controlling ships around the Arctic area. So they said, is it possible to have this automated information system? I think it's something like you have on board aircraft and so on, so you can always see where they are. But on land, it's not so easy. So they built such a thing. We are very interested in, because Greenland is a part of Denmark, and so is the Faroe Islands. And since we are in war with the Canadian about the territorial areas, it's good to know what's going on there. So this has a commercial perspective. And remember the block we had here in the big one? Now we are absolutely in this area, because here there's big money. It's subsidized by the government, but the potential of patents and so on is very, very high. So it's a win situation time 3. And here we can see, I guess this is, I can't see where it is. Anyway, Halifax, I think, maybe. You see the land-based can't reach out too far, but with a satellite picking up these SARS, ACE can detect them. Back to Earth. That was a nice rise, wasn't it? I have not mentioned something about the soft skills. It have been technical skills. But I need to in order to make it complete. I think the word has been popping up occasionally during these days that we have to focus on these things also. But I wouldn't say I would bet. I would like to see the curricula to see if it's actually there. Can I go out and see it in the curriculum? Don't answer. Don't need to. But if we look at this one, was made in 2002, and it was a candidate and employer research that was done. So they went out and asked for what is the things you would look at in order to elect people for an interview. And you see here, not surprisingly, is the professional qualification and perhaps something from internships. Others, well, okay, something there. We're looking at the discipline. So we write our curriculum, right? Because during the interview, this is what counts now, the personal qualifications. And this means, in my optic of looking at project work, we are not only allowed to focus on the technical issue, the courses, the subjects. We should also have room for and give them professional hand-on tools in order to work with the professional qualifications. If you can establish a system where you have the professional quality on top, and you also have this one, then you're walking on two legs, and then you can easily compete with others who's missing this leg. They are jumping on one leg only. And this is, if you look at the advertisement of engineers or whatever in the press, try to look what they're asking for. They're not asking for that because well, if you're an engineer in that, of course you can do that. They're asking for these things there. So in order to get a job, you must also qualify in this. And personal qualification is also that discipline to professionally master cooperation, even with people you might not have picked yourself. So that is the one way to go. Do you agree? I don't. Because there's always another way. And you people here, you have an idea where you want to go. It's not my way. As I used to say, Aalborg model is one place, and that is in Aalborg. It's actually in 3 places. But that is there. It's matching the culture and whatever we have there. You would create your own. But I hope the philosophy, which we have seen here and also sense you are having, that is what is covering everything. The students must be in focused, much more responsibility on the students. Get the professors and students out in the real world to get a picture of what is going on, and then be ready for making the change whenever it's needed. That's what the project is for. So finally, I'll show you this, and that would be my last remark for this one.
Excellent. Okay.